Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Craft. I'm sitting in this morning for Julie Grant. Happy Friday to all of you. And this morning we are in Oregon for the Unspent Bullet Murder Case. 29-year-old Mariah King was initially reported dead as a tragic suicide. A little over a year later, it's now turned into a homicide. And none other than her boyfriend, Jerod Norman, is now charged with her murder. The dramatic turn of events happened earlier this month at Norman's bond hearing. That took place in Oregon when prosecutors revealed that the medical examiner found an unspent bullet in the victim's lower abdomen. We are getting you all caught up on this case. We're going to play the unaired hearing. Here's the defense's opening argument. Then you'll hear a first responding officer on the stand describing what he saw when he arrived at the scene.
This is a bail hearing. This is not a trial. Time, resources, and other concerns require an abbreviated opening statement from me today. The best interest of court and counsel is for all of us to get on ahead to having these witnesses testify. However, some information about the evidence in this case is worth mentioning now, and that's what I'm going to do for you. This case is a tragic suicide that was turned into a homicide. Our position is that that was done without a valid reason. On July 18, 2024, and I think the court earlier mentioned the date in a PC affidavit as January. That might have been the probable cause for arrest. The incident date that we're talking about is July 18, 2024. Mariah King was at a place called the Going Green Marijuana Dispensary. She was reported there to be intoxicated and paranoid. She had scratch marks on her neck. She told an employee at the store that it was a suicide attempt which caused those scratches. She said, "I tried to stop myself from breathing." Her mother, Kimberly Lapham, was contacted from the store. The employee knew how to get a hold of her. Miss King and her mother had been recently estranged for over a month. Mariah King discussed with her mother a need for therapy and then left the store on foot. Reportedly, she literally ran away from the place. Kimberly Lapham was worried enough to call in a welfare check, and she did so. Sweet Home Police Department, a guy named Officer Cody McPherson, went to Mariah King's address where she lived with Jerod Norman. That's 2241 Nandina Street. Officer McPherson found Jerod Norman busy outside. He was working on having a barbecue that day for the people that were at the house. And those people are Jerod Norman, Mariah King, Jerod Norman's son Barrett, who is 10 years old, Barrett's friend Dylan, who was 12 years old, and Jerod Norman's father, David Norman, was also at the residence, although Officer McPherson did not see David Norman because he was inside the house or something like that. Cody McPherson said there was nothing noteworthy about his contact with Jerod Norman. Cody McPherson went to the front or main door of the house, and he heard a woman yelling, "Go away," and saying that she was fine. Eventually, Mariah King poked her head out from a shop door, not the main house, but this shop that is attached to it, a workshop of sorts. And she talked to Officer McPherson. She told him, after he asked her, "Are you okay?" She said that she was all right. She said that she was fine, and she asked for him to leave. Officer McPherson noted that she was screaming, that she was possibly angry, and seemed disturbed. He recalled that she probably used profanity during their interchange. He said that Mr. Norman's demeanor was seemingly embarrassed by what was happening, and it seemed like he was feeling down. He did not yell at anyone or use foul language. Mariah King didn't leave that workshop after Officer McPherson drove away. Later that night, Jerod Norman discovered that the shop was locked, that she had locked herself inside this building. He eventually got in by finding a key, and he found Mariah King suspended, or partially so, with a rope around her neck. The rope was going through a ceiling eyelet in the shop. I don't know the exact height of the ceiling, but you'll hear about that sooner or later. He immediately called out for his father, who came in. They unwound the rope and they untied it. Mr. Norman started CPR between himself and his father, David. They ended up calling 911. Mr. Norman continued CPR until help arrived from the Sweet Home Fire and Ambulance District. Officer McPherson was actually a person who returned to the residence after this call. He noted that Mr. Norman was distraught, was on his knees, and was crying when dealing with the knowledge that Mariah King was dead after he was informed that that was her condition. A person who is important in this investigation is a person named Kenneth Rosgan. He noted that Mariah King had older cuts on her arm indicating previous self-harm. Those are the words that he used in his description. Rosgan made other opinions known about this scene, and there are problems with some of his opinions which will be described during his testimony. Mariah King was not stable mentally. She has struggled with suicidal ideation, had made threats of killing herself on multiple occasions, engaged in self-harm in the past, was diagnosed with things like depression, PTSD, and more. Jasper Lapham is Mariah King's brother. He confirmed her suicidal ideation, among other things, and there's a significant number of other things. Mariah King sent to her brother a picture of herself holding a gun in the very shop where she hung herself. He reported that Mariah King was, quote, going crazy and had mental health issues. He reported that she was an alcoholic who recently relapsed and expressed suicidal statements on the very night she died, as well as on other occasions. There's a documented history of her mental health, and it shows how she has become worse during recent years. There are even text messages to her brother from Mariah King on July 18th, and you'll hear about some of those. Kimberly Lapham is Mariah King's mother. She verified to the police that Mariah King had mental health issues from at least 6 years ago, and that Mariah King had been on and off of medications for her problems. She knew, for instance, that Mariah King had taken a gun from Jerod Norman and threatened to kill herself with that gun. She knew and reported to law enforcement that Mariah King had struggled with suicidal ideation. She also talked about suicidal messages and suicidal behavior going back to June 8 of 2024. In fact, Kimberly Lapham confirmed to law enforcement that Mariah King said she would kill herself in that same wood shop where her body was found. For Mr. Norman's part, when he was interviewed, he made zero incriminating statements. He appeared very upset by Mariah King's death. There was an autopsy performed by Sean Hurst, the medical examiner for the state of Oregon. In the end, he said that the cause of death was asphyxia, which is consistent with death by hanging. He said the manner of death was undetermined to this day. There were ligature marks on Mariah King's neck. They were cantilevered over her left shoulder. Those are going to be important. These marks bear some significance in this case. X-rays revealed there was a cartridge casing with a still intact bullet found in Mariah King's lower abdomen. The theory is that that was inserted through her vaginal wall. This is weird. Everyone that would hear that evidence knows that that is strange. Law enforcement was looking for something else, such as how did this get in there? And so what they did was they sent that cartridge to the Idaho State Police Forensic Services Division for analysis. They sent it there because these are experts that use this system called the Recover system. This is a way to detect fingerprints. No prints were detected. The report back from the Idaho State Police says we can do some DNA analysis on this cartridge. No DNA analysis has been conducted. Detective Potter, who investigated this case, seems to think that no prints on this cartridge automatically means that gloves were used to insert it. Mr. Norman was interviewed in July and then again in August of 2024 and again in January of 2025. And it wasn't until January of 2025 that he was confronted about this bullet, a bullet that is still in the cartridge. And he was mystified by that and told the police, like she ate it. He did not understand how that cartridge came to be inside of her body. Furthermore, he admitted that it's the kind of cartridge that goes to his rifle. He said something like, that came from my rifle, or that goes with my rifle. And he also said this was a bizarre and weird occurrence that he could not understand. Detective Potter told Mr. Norman that the bullet was inserted after death. The medical examiner, Sean Hurst, disagrees with that and says this is a perimortem injury. It could have been inserted before or after death. Mr. Norman didn't make any incriminating statements ever and was open even about some of the issues that existed in his relationship with Mariah King. That's a summary of some of the things, and again, it's very different from a trial, but that's a summary of some of the things that you will hear testimony about today.